Well, as you well know, I'm in the process of putting two Yellowstone Park coaches together. One is an 8-passenger and one is an 11-passenger. And many of you who have been stopping to visit on your vacations are asking, are these going to go back to Yellowstone Park? And I guess this is something that I haven't made clear. These are two coaches that used to run in Yellowstone Park. One came in through the north entrance through Gardner and probably started at the railhead in Livingston. And the other one started at the railhead at Monida and came in through West Yellowstone. The northern coach was all yellow and the western coach was a red body and a yellow undercarriage. So I'm building one of each. The 8-passenger would have come in through the north entrance, it's all yellow, and the 11-passenger will have a red body and a yellow running gear because it was a western, or sometimes known as the red line. So these are not owned by Yellowstone Park. Maybe I haven't made that part clear. They used to run there. But these are my own private vehicles that I have collected over the years and am in the process of putting together. So just to try to clarify that, part of the drawback of doing these two is I had an undercarriage and body cut out about 30 years ago, almost complete, not totally complete. So I'm doing that and all the joint work is already done, so you're not seeing that process. So part of the advantage of me doing the 11-passenger is I get to actually go through the process of doing all the joint work, whereas the 8-passenger is just assembly. So you've seen me put the driver's box together on the 8-passenger, but I have all new wood cut out for the 11, and I need to do that joint work, which is very similar, but the front curve of the driver's box on the 8 was already cut out. But the curve on the 11-passenger is a little bit different, and I haven't cut that joint work out. So I have the back of this body assembled, and I am going to kind of go through the process of cutting the joint work on that curved front framework for the driver's seat. So this front of the driver's seat was part of what I cut out 30 some years ago. And I think I've already established that this was a earlier coach in serial number, probably the late 1800s, very early 1900s. So there are some things that are a little bit different compared to the 1912 to 14 era of what this 11-passenger coach is. So I made these front curves for this driver's box based off of the 11-passenger. And if I put them up against this other one here, you can see that they have a difference in curve. So when I cut these joints up here of this side frame into this upright curved piece, I didn't have a square joint. I was, I think, 4 degrees off. It ended up being closer to 3 when I finished it up. But this one should end up being a little more closer to square because it has more of a belly and I think it comes up a little straighter than what this one does. But these are the joints that I need to get cut. So far I'm just doing a dry run here like I did on the other one. And I've made sure that my joints are square here and I'm square coming out of the main frame of the body. So I have my distance here, which gives me the placement up here. And then I'm going to bring myself flush down here on the front of the main frame. And that's going to be the placement of my joint work. So I do know my thickness is 1.25 inches. So if I bring my front joint up flush, and it's going to be set in about like so. So I'm going to put this edge even with the back of my joint. Hold my bottom joint about where it needs to be. And I'm going to draw my line there and see if I'm actually square. And it looks like I am really close to square. If anything, I'm less than 1/2 degree off. Really close. So then if I bring this to where I'm flush with my main frame, my top is in position where I need to be. That's going to be the angle I need my joint to be. So on the lap joint of my 8-passenger, I have this leg here that is 1/2 of an inch thick. And again, with my being flush in the front, that's going to give me the angle that I need to cut out in my frame. And I am too long, so that'll give me my length. Then I'll double check that nothing is moved. The height from my main frame up should be relatively the same. 28 1/4, 28 1/4. So that should be pretty close. On this other side, I'm just a touch off a square. I'm going to bring that in to square. It's not going to take much. Check my square there. So that should give me my height and the angle of my joint and the length of my front frame. So working out the joint work on a curved piece like this is a little more difficult, but once I get all my square set up, it should allow me to figure out what these joints need to be. So then our last joint is at the top of this curved front frame here, and we want to lap that out. So we have this front bar that goes across the front of the driver's seat, and this is actually going to be stepped down to accommodate this width here. So when we look at this joint, we're going to have a heavy square post in the center, and then this will cover the end grain from the front, so nothing will be exposed. So this comes down like so. Cut that out. Make sure that's a square cut. So you probably noticed, since I have a round end here, I'm holding this end down to where it's fairly flat because I think we're going straight there. And I'm just supporting this outside end with the thickness of my finger to kind of hold that from rocking as I cut that joint. Well, I'm back to where the 8 and the 11 are now caught up again with the driver's seat on the 11. I think what I'd like to do next is put the paneling on these driver's seats before I start doing the rib cage framing. Now these backs on these driver's seats are bent, even on the old ones. And if I look at this old original one off of another 11 that I had done, you can see the seam right here. See all the nails where it had been nailed into those framings on the back. This is the bottom main frame, and then these were individual frames put between the verticals. Well, this is all one piece. So the size of that one would be 17 to 18 inches. Which that is difficult to make. Overall, we have about 2 feet. So I think I would like to split this and do half of it bent, and then the other half is going to be straighter. Stand this up, you can see this is the pieces where the joint has been nailed into. They aren't jointed in, they're just between these two verticals. So this is a bit of a tight curve there, but then we go straight from about here on down. We're also just right at that 24-inch mark. So if I could split this about in the middle and go 12 and 12, this bottom 12 could be straight, and then I could incorporate this bend into the top 12. So in the past, when I've been faced with this, the question becomes, do I steam bend it? Well, I don't have very many 12 to 14 inch wide poplar boards. These are only 3/8 of an inch thick. And if I had access to green sawn, non-kiln dried, this would bend, I think, much easier. But what I have available to me is kiln dried. And so when all the grain is going this direction, to bend it this way is much more prone to cracking and breaking as opposed to the grain bending this direction. So I've always kind of improvised, and this is what I do. I have on hand 3 4x8 sheets of poplar, but they're only 1/8 of an inch thick. These are designed actually to bend one direction in the 8-foot direction. They don't really bend in the 4-foot direction, but these will bend fairly tightly, and they are designed to be laminated together. And what I've done in the past is I take 3 of these and I form it to that curvature of the back of the seat, and then I laminate them together and let them dry in place. Then I have a panel that is 3 layers thick, which gives me my 3/8 thickness that I need. And once that lamination sets, it is very rigid. And it allows me to have this poplar finish like the rest of the coach panels are going to be. And I also use this to come up here later on that back curve that comes up to the top the backrest of the rear seat. So even though I'm not to that point yet, that panel starts from about here, and this is a 19 to 20 inch panel, and originally it was steam bent. And this is the joint, and then the next panel comes up and it's also in that 19 to 20 inch range. So old timber growth, big boards, most likely they were green sawn when they steamed them. I don't have that option, so I take this 1/8 inch ply and I make this sharp curve, and then this one here I can actually, I think, put in with 3/8 normal kiln dried lumber. So to start out with, I need 3 pieces that are roughly 12 inches. I'll actually make them maybe 12.5 or 13 because I'm going to end up trimming the edges. And this one is going to be 38.5, and my other one is 39.5. And I'll just form it right to these framings here and glue it in place. Not actually glue it to the framework, but just use the framework as my mold, and I can take it off, trim it, and actually assemble it. So this is a smaller piece of the same 1/8 inch ply. It actually has 3 plies, and it doesn't bend on the 4-foot direction well at all, very gradual, but it'll bend on the 8-foot direction fairly tightly. I have at times done this all in one panel. See, it'll fit right up in there and not have any joint. But all of these that I have restored have had a joint in them. So for the sake of that being kept original, I'm going to do the top portion in a bent laminated, and I'll do the bottom portion in a solid piece and include that joint that was so common on these coaches. So when I bring this whole concept up, I just know it's going to stir a whole discussion about what's original, what's authentic, and am I crossing the line? You know, I've been through this debate in my head over the years because I've done a dozen or so of these. There's a problem when you have wood that is milled on the East Coast, Concord, New Hampshire, where these were built, and shipped out to Montana, California. It's going from 80, 90 to 100% humidity out to this country that is 10, 12, 14%. And all of these coaches, including the front seat and the rear panel that I already showed you, are subject to severe cracking. And it is because of the humidity change in my perception that these coaches are put through, shipped from high humidity to low humidity. We encountered that when I built the Borax wagons here at 12% in Montana, and we sent them to the Mojave Desert of 2 to 4%, and within 5 years everything was loose, actually before that. So that is a big factor, and as I factor all this in between, do I stay original? To what extent do I stay original? Do I hunt up green sawn poplar that is 20-inch boards? One, my steamer will only go up to 16 inches, so physically I can't steam bend a 20-inch board like they did. But to address that issue of moisture drying and wood splitting, this is one avenue that I have decided I could go to and eliminate that problem. Keep the joint in there and all that. So the discussion might come up, well, lamination, it wasn't authentic for that time frame. Well, any of you have worked on old furniture know that that is not true, and it is also not true in the realm of horse-drawn vehicles. Veneering was very popular back in that day with old furniture. You furniture people know that. When I work on sleighs, what is called the Portland cutter is almost universally 3 layers thick of veneer, a 3-layer thick laminated side panel and dash. And with the poor glues that they had comparative to what we have today, those laminations come apart. So I've fixed a number of those, but old original Portland cutters that were built just like I'm going to do on the Stagecoach. Was it done on these coaches? No. Was it done in that time frame? Yes. So I have to juggle this, and the nice thing about these coaches being mine, I get to decide, and this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the top part laminated on the driver's box, the bottom part laminated on the rear seat, and then the rest of it I'll try to go as close to original as I can. Well, you can see I started letting it walk away from the fence a little bit, so I got a little crooked. But I cut these strong at 12.5, so I'm still at 12.25. So I'm plenty good there. So this is going to give me my 3 layers thick for the upper portion of that panel. So I got a couple of oak pieces, 3/4 or so by 2, and these are fairly straight, but I'd like to have just a little bit of curve to them. These are what's going to go across and suck that up into that bend. So I'd like to make sure I have good pressure on the inside. In order to do that, I put a little curve to them, and it's not going to be a lot, maybe an 1/8 inch. And I'm just going to kind of freehand this in on the sander and relieve the ends so that the pressure hits on the center first. And then I'm going to take my round over bit and take away these sharp corners so it doesn't dig in and make creases when it's pushing on the inside of that curve. Well, looks like my router died. Got it plugged in, checked it on another circuit. Got a bad switch or something. So I guess that's as far as I go right now. I'll have to do something about a router. Get that laminated up next time. Didn't plan on stopping this soon, but I guess that's the way it goes. Anyway, appreciate you coming along. Thanks for watching.